Hi, you're with Scott. I'm Ganji Kid. I'm the Grave Kipper. I'm the Super Chuffer. I'm with Steve of the Dead. This is Thus, a podcast about how people think, feel and behave. Today we're going to look at criminals who made appeals or did interviews, and it turned out that they were guilty of the very crimes that they were appealing to the public to help solve. I'm joined by forensic psychologist Steve of the Dead, who will give us insight into the minds of the people and how the police profile and attempt to catch them.
It's there. People like Kevin Huntley displayed signs of psychopathy. People like Rodney Carr displayed signs of psychopathy. You know, it's one of those things. So you look for them and you try to not let it prejudge, because again, everybody has the benefit. You know, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But at least here, with the benefit of hindsight, we know that guilt has been established. So we can look back and apply it a bit more and go, oh yeah, there's a sign of narcissism. And then also you get the benefit of, you have a whole history, you know, you get their life story through it all. So you know how, like, say, Rodney Carr grew up, and you know what he went through as a child, and you know what he was like as an adolescent, and you know, so you can look back and say, these are where things might start to develop. These are where these personality traits or this element of psychopathy might start to develop. So yeah, it's been interesting going back over the old stuff.
Later on, once we've looked at all these, I'll start asking you some more general questions as well about whether there's anything that connects them. But until we look at them, I think we should get into it. What do you reckon? Should we get into it?
Yeah. Should we start with like the big one?
Yeah, we're going to start.
Well, for us anyway. American viewers might not know this that much.
Maybe so. Yeah, maybe so.
But for us, this is
the Soham murders. I suppose I'll play a little bit of this news story just to, introduce it. I'm careful though at the moment. I have to be careful. I don't want to get us binned off with the copyright.
Like Red Dwarf.
Like when we did the Red Dwarf stuff. But let's have a look at this.
Favourite classroom assistant, Maxine Carr. He took the police to search the school and told them he was the last person to see Holly and Jessica.
So Holly and Jessica
police inquiry
had gone missing, hadn't they? I'm just going to pause that and go off just me talking instead. They'd gone missing on Sunday the 4th of August, and they left their house to go to attend a barbecue, it said. A lot of this stuff I'm reading off Wikipedia, but they're facts that are out of the investigation and stuff. They told the parents they were going to be leaving, and they just didn't turn up again. They didn't come back, but they were seen by a number of witnesses along the way, weren't they? And it got to the point where it was basically appeals on the telly. Have you seen these girls?
Yeah.
And it was quite a big thing. Like, I think at the time, their distinctive clothing, the red Man United shirts, they're young, naive little girls, aren't they? So people are worried about them. And so this guy was on the news as part of this public appeal. And here he is doing his public appeal.
They were here at 6:15.
Could you find the full clip? I couldn't.
That's a good point. I think I was unable to find the full...
Because he did give a long interview.
Yeah, the truth of Ian Huntley clips is that there is a news article for Look North or something in the UK, and there was a BBC interview, I think a Sky News interview. It was like 3 different pieces, and you can't really get them to put them on the... I think they've been put in documentaries, and they're owned by media companies who aggressively pursue the copyright, because I can't seem to find any of these. And I remember watching them on telly. I
suppose at this point he is only just one of another people. He just happens to be, the one you're interviewing. You could have interviewed their next door neighbour, or you could have interviewed somebody on the high street at this point.
Yeah, and he did say, he was he sort of came forward as a member of the community who was looking for them, part of the campaign sort of thing, and he was connected to the school.
Oh, he was very involved. Yeah, that's going to come up in a bit. But he was very involved.
So for this first looking, I guess for everyone in chat and for you as well, Steve, let's just look at this as if we don't know that he's done it, because it's hard to separate the two. But at the time, you'd have just been watching the news, and this would have been on the news sort of thing.
They were here at 6:15. Well, we have an eyewitness. Ian Huntley here is a familiar figure. Evening, Ian. You're the school caretaker. The girls, Jessica and Holly, would know you, and they saw you on the front doorstep. What went on?
Well, I don't know the girls. I stood on the front doorstep grooming my dog down. She'd run away and come back a bit of a mess. They just came across and asked how Miss Carr was, as she used to teach them at St Andrews. I just said she weren't very good, as she hadn't got the job. And they just said, please tell her that we're very sorry. And off they walked in the direction of the library over there.
Okay,
that's like the main one you get. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. But that was him, like, on the news. They're missing, and what we didn't know at the time was that he had they didn't walk off over there. He'd got hold of them, took them in the house. He maintains that one of them had a nosebleed, and that's why he offered them, to go into the house. But nobody knows exactly what happened because they discovered their bodies some days later, didn't they? In Woodland, and they had been
suffocated, or I think one had drowned. Didn't he drown them in the bath? He drowned one of them in the bath at least, and
I think so.
Strangled or suffocated the other.
Again, like it's based on the case, and I don't think he ever admitted to all that. Did he ever admit to all these things? I can't remember now. I don't think he ever did.
I think he did. He admitted to. He admitted to it because look, here his story is they walked and asked about Maxine, and then they walked off, and then later on he does admit it. It presumably pleaded guilty.
I know he pleaded guilty. I don't know if he specifically mentioned exactly how they.
I think he maintains that it was a mistake. He maintains that they died by accident.
Yeah.
He was helping her with the nosebleed, and he knocked her into the bath, and then the other one started screaming, and as he tried to shush her, he accidentally suffocated her, and then he turned back, and the other one had drowned in the bath. He maintains it's an accident, but it's like, how do you accidentally kill 2 10-year-old girls?
Yeah, So,
but again, this is post. This is benefit hindsight stuff. Going back over this, I was struck by how he's fairly convincing at this point. You would just believe that he was somebody who'd seen them on that day. He seems to carry it off quite well. He's trying. He's looking like he's a bit worried. There's a bit of like a sad expression on his face, and he talks fairly naturally. He adds just enough detail that it sounds plausible. Could be scrubbing the dog, and you see him. You're like, "All right, girls. Oh yeah, how's Mrs. Carr? Did she? This and that. Okay, bye." It seemed just plausible enough. What we know now, obviously, we know here he's lying. He's manipulating.
Yeah, we'll look at it again and ask you. I'll ask you, what we know now. But so on that first viewing, I mean, obviously we weren't into this sort of thing at the time. It was just on the news. No. But
this only became famous later, really. This footage. Didn't it? At the time, it was just aired as another piece.
I think at the time there were some suspicions about him and his demeanor, maybe. Looking at it with hindsight, it's hard to dissect, but I think he does look a bit shifty. He looks a bit, he's got this kind of expression of extreme concern. His eyebrows are furrowed. The sun's not actually in his eyes, but he looks like he's squinting his eyes, so to speak.
You can see it on the side of his face, at least. It's quite bright out. It's a fairly sunny day. But again, he's maintaining that expression, and he sells that really convincingly. I was quite impressed with how he is, how convincing he is at it. And you start to understand why people follow serial killers and get into their cars and things, and how serial killers can convince people to walk with them down lonely paths. You have to be charming and affable and approachable enough, and he sort of does it fairly well. Not the best. I'm not saying he's the best and he appears perfectly innocent, but he looked natural enough that you would think he was someone who was, a member of the small village worried about the girls.
Yeah, he doesn't look scary and offensive, and he looks meek in a way, doesn't he? So there's that. Yeah. Of course, there was also Maxine.
There's nothing here. Sorry, there's Maxine. But just before we do, there's nothing here at that point that screams, "I have killed 2 10-year-old girls." Mm-hmm. There was nothing at that point. So
okay,
and I forgot she was their teacher.
Yeah, I'm looking for your opinion.
I don't know why, but
as a psychological profiler, to say whether there was screaming flags in this, and you're saying there's
no. At that moment, no. Ian Huntley did very well to sort of at least there appear completely innocent and
so then
uninvolved.
Next we've got and there were a few different clips, and we've managed to find a few, but not all of them, because like I said, I think some of them are protected now quite heavily by the people who made the documentaries. But this is Maxine Carr. So she was complicit, but didn't actually commit the crime.
Yeah, she wasn't directly involved, but she did help pervert the course of justice.
Yeah,
she is one of, I think, 4 people who have a injunction on them that report it. They now have new identities, and if you reveal Maxine Carr's identity, it's crime. It is against the law to report on her and where she is now. I think the others are the Jamie Bulger killers. And there's one more, and my mum will kill me because she knows this. It was a famous crime for her. I think it was the.
Because I was going to look up where they are now.
Was it Elsie something? I think.
In chat, Tom's saying a lot of people knew him, which is why he quickly came to police attention. A lady working as a Cambridgeshire constabulary volunteer actually recognised him and gave him a tip-off. So this is Maxine. She was his girlfriend, and she was a teaching assistant at the school that the girls went to. And it was actually part of the leverage that he used. Like, Maxine's your friend. She's the teaching assistant. She might be in the house. She wasn't in the house at all, was she? But I think that was part of the reason the girls trusted him. So this is Maxine making an emotional appeal to try and help find the girls, fully in the knowledge that she's been complicit in covering up their murder. So on first viewing, is there anything that stands out for you here? And this is just
before we go, Mary Bell, who was
Mary Bell,
child killer.
I'm laughing about these things. I'm chuckling because busy finding out the name.
So Maxine Carr has a new identity. We can't report on who she is or where she is or what she does now. This is how huge this crime was, that the public outrage of this woman, that she lied for Huntley.
Yeah, well, let's see her lying for Huntley, and let's see if she stands out as being, because I guess at the end of all this, we might have another look at the current video of that chuffer doing his interview. Just, have a little look, but let's see if anything stands out.
It's what Holly gave me on the
This
is something I'll probably keep for the rest of my life, I think. It's what Holly gave me on the last day of term. She was very, very upset because I didn't get my job, and that's the kind of girl she was. She was just lovely, really lovely.
That's really very sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was just a little...
See, if I didn't know about the Huntley interview, that would make me think, yes, she's the teacher, and she's upset that one of her students is she's upset that her students are missing. She's upset that these two girls that she's just spent a year teaching and seeing grow have gone. You would buy that. You would, it's, again, she's probably been told by Huntley, here's how you don't say this, just say this, and it seemed believable at the time, and you would, especially because maybe this is our preconception about the role of like teachers, and you just wouldn't believe that somebody who was in that position in a child's life would be capable of that. It's quite like how when mothers kill their children, it's always really shocking because you just don't conceive of it. And so again, you're probably not that suspicious of the teacher, especially when it's something that happened during August. You might be a bit more suspicious if it was something during term time, and if it had happened in the afternoon, you might be like, well, where was the teacher, but here she just seems like she's upset and just innocent. I
guess.
Well, I do want to say, like, if you did know about the Huntley one, if you had seen the Huntley one and then seen this, that would set off a red flag, because she has that thing from Holly saying, I'm sorry that you didn't get your job, and she says the kids were upset that I didn't get my job, whereas he said they came up to him and asked if she'd got the job, and he said no.
Good point.
So that would have raised a red flag. So then now you can look back at him and see, well, that's a lie then, because obviously they knew about her not getting a job. That's why she made this little, sorry, Miss Carr, we love you, and all that. And then
That's
you say,
really
well, what else if his was a lie? Why would he flood that?
Being able to cross-reference different people's accounts really helps. And with some of these, you get an emotional appeal, and then that's it. But the more people that talk, the more people that are talking around from the family, from the area, I suppose it's a good thing, because it helps you to cross-reference accounts. In this, she did stand out for two reasons to me. That she kept her eyes down. She didn't look up. I don't know if that, for you psychologically is shifty at all. Only she's looking at this thing that she's holding, but to me it appears like you tend, if you're not guilty, if you're wrong, to look in.
I think you don't know that, because some people are just nervous on camera. Some people aren't natural on camera, and they all shy. And if you're under like the emotional weight of this, again, from a she might be innocent perspective, you're under the emotional weight of this, and you've got this memento, and that's what you're focusing on. So you're probably not going to look up the camera. And again, it's been edited. There's been some cuts.
It's a very short clip as well.
And it's a short clip.
The only other thing is that she says this is the kind of girl she was, and that's a past tense use of that, and that's like an issue, isn't it? That kind of
But again, it could be that she's already thinking of her in the past tense because she's the school teacher and she's now got a new class coming. So she's focusing on them. They were the old class, they've gone now. They're moving up a year. You know, so there are arguments that you can make either way. And again, it was just interesting sort of looking back at it and going, all right, from the perspective of if they were innocent, you would be able to explain it like this. But because we know they're guilty, you can explain it like this. So, and
then we've got this one, which is a clip, and this is a really bad quality clip, but apparently it emerged some years later.
Oh God, look at the frosted tips.
Yeah, and this is an interview.
God, the early 2000s, man. Fuck.
This is BBC interview they did, and she laughs when she gets something wrong, but it's only a very short clip, so we can't judge the whole thing. But this whole interview would have gone out, I think. So it appears to have been on Sky News. So let's have a look at this.
It's just very upsetting, you know? And to think that I'm like the last friendly face that these two girls had to speak to.
The jurors were told how one BBC interview had to be restarted as Carr was referring to the girls in the past tense.
There you go.
It's very different girls, but Holly was more of the,
And it's just kind of creepy to see her laughing like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, wrong. Something did occur to me at the time as well, which was that, like, these people are appealing, but I found it, like, I would have expected to see the families of the people that are, you know, can you help find my daughter? And these two seem to be on the telly, and I think I remember at the time thinking, like, you know, why are these people got to, okay, he was the last person to see her maybe, but, you know, how come these get to be, like, you know, the big focus of the attention when they don't actually, like, I know this might sound terrible, and obviously I do care about, I mean, it's really sad what happened to Holly and Jessica, but in general, like, you know, if you heard there was someone missing in the town, like, you know, does it stop you from sleeping at night if it's not your children and it's not so close to home? Like, she doesn't seem that bothered, does she? So, you know, in this very short clip of interview, because they were on the telly a little bit, weren't they, at the time? And what do you get anything from that? I mean, obviously they're putting it out there now to say, oh, obviously she's a chuffer, but do you think at the time
it would still have unsettled me? I mean, it's difficult to sort of argue that, hey, maybe, you know, you are nervous and that's the sort, because that's not a nervous laugh. That's you know, that's a jokey laugh. That's a you and me, we're in on a joke sort of laugh. That's not a sorry, I'm not good at this. Sorry, you know, sort of laugh. And it's, again, the reason that Huntley was, like, good at appearing innocent in that earlier video was that he gave just enough information, but he stuck closely enough to the truth as well. So there's less effort involved in trying to keep track of all these lies that he's telling. So he's less likely to slip up. It's probably likely that he was outside washing the dog on the day when he saw them. You know, they probably did approach him because they recognized him. Or maybe they did actually approach him to ask about Mrs. Carr and how she's doing. And that's when he gets them in. And that's where the story deviates. And after that, he gives fewer details. He's like, I just said this, and then they walked off that way. It's less likely for you to trip up. But when the longer you talk, such as the more interviews you give, the more likely you are to slip up, because you're going to be you're going to try to act as natural as possible. So you're going to let something slip. Maybe you do use the wrong tense. You know? I'm
going to just quickly,
and that's the thing that slipped out, because your brain can only track so much, and eventually something slips through.
In chat, ACW was asked, could it be she didn't know at the time, Maxine, but she was completely complicit. She, as we'll explain now, today we're more focused on these videos of the people that have, like, made the appeal and looking from the forensic psychologist analysis point of view at the sort of things you're going to be looking for. The actual full depth and details of the case would probably take a whole video on their own, so we'll briefly go through. Thanks, Tom, though, for putting out the correct information in the chat there. But yeah, so what had actually happened?
Oh, she didn't know. I thought, yeah.
No, she did know.
I thought
she did know.
She wasn't there. Did she not know?
She did know, because what had actually happened was that they moved the girls, and she was helpful. She was like, there was a witness sighting of them looking in the boot of the car, and she was crying. Like, you know, she was there. She'd seen the bodies and helped move them, even if she didn't participate in the murder. So she did know. She did. Most definitely, she knew. I think personally. I might, it could be argued that she didn't, maybe. I suppose.
Oh, just about providing a false alibi. It says in the Murderpedia that I just quickly brought up. His reasons for committing the murders may not be known, but minutes before seeing the girls, Huntley had slammed the telephone down on Carr after a furious argument, as he was suspicious that she was cheating on him. The police believe that Huntley killed the girls in a jealous rage, but that would imply she wasn't there.
Yeah, she wasn't there. She wasn't. Yeah,
so she wasn't there when he killed them, but she probably came round and saw, and then he convinced her to help him cover it up.
That's exactly. She was complicit in the covering it up.
Yeah, she was complicit in the cover up. Yeah, she definitely did that. So.
She even told police that she wasn't. She was like at the house in the bath on the day, when actual fact she wasn't there, and to that level of covering it up. And then there was these witness sightings, like I said, of people like they obviously used the car because he ended up cleaning on another one of these, ask Ian Huntley outside his house interviews. He was cleaning the car. Right, he was filmed cleaning the car. We all good?
Bop the cat's head with a bottle, sorry.
He was filmed cleaning the car, and he'd torn out the back of the car and replaced it with some carpet and all sorts. So, yeah, it turned out that he'd done it. He'd moved them. She was complicit. So now, looking at this interview... And that's what I wanted to say. Is there was a critical point here is that he'd been on the telly, he'd done this talking. People had maybe, I don't like the smell of him or this and that. But the critical point is that the reason the police were able to close the case is because they searched the school that he was working at, and they found in a bin some burned pieces of their football shirts, and then they traced the fibres. The fibres were the same, so you've got that huge piece of evidence. Then they were able to search his house more extensively in the car. They were able, and this came after the discovery of the bodies as well. So they were able to put these big clues together. It wasn't the case that this video and him being on the telly led to his arrest.
I am amazed that those shirts didn't burn, because it's like they're football shirts. They're like really, that sort of material, it should go up fairly easily. And he's a janitor. He must have access to a furnace. There must be like something there that's like capable of disposing of this sort of material. It's amazing that he did a very bad job of disposing of everything. But to answer the question in chat that ACW asked, I think when she read that card, she knew. I think she knew at that point. Because that was several days into the investigation, so I definitely think she knew at that point. Probably told her on the day. I think she'll have come round on the day, and he won't have been able to hide it that quickly. So I think that's how she'll found out. But at that point, I think she probably knew that.
So interestingly, what I want to we could probably do a whole episode on one of these cases, or all of these cases eventually.
Especially this one, because it's just so big. It was a huge thing at the time. It's like the Bulger killings. It's just one of them. It's so massive.
Focusing it on this aspect of media involvement and stuff like that. And Ian Huntley, I suppose, is the first one I want to ask about. What kind of person? I'm going to ask this about every time we go through this with you, I suppose. What kind of person? First of all, doing the murder, I can't get my head into that, of course. All these people are bad chuffers. But there's another level with this, which is you do the murder and then you go out into the community and say, where are these people? I want to help. And there's the news. I'll go on the camera and I'll do an interview. Doesn't that sound counterintuitive if you're trying to, hide and not get caught? Isn't it strange to put yourself in this position to do the interview?
To most people, yeah. But if you're delusional enough to think that you're a genius who's just gotten away with murder. And one of the things that I found out about Huntley during this, which actually made me feel quite sick, was that shortly after he killed them, he went to their fathers and sort of consoled them while they're still looking for the girls and thinking they're missing. He's like, I hope they show, I'm really sorry for what you're going through. I hope they turn up soon and all. He was very consolatory to the family, and it's just that to be the sort of person who kills two young girls and then goes and says, you hope that they are okay to the fathers, it's an exceptional level of coldness. I do think I've seen some people argue he's a psychopath, and I've seen some people argue he's a narcissist. And there's a lot of evidence for him being a narcissist in the way he conducts the interviews, and knowing what we know now about him, he's very obviously playing people, and he's enjoying manipulating the image and the sort of information that he gets, because there's another interview with him on his front porch where he talks about these people amongst us, and what about if it's your neighbor? Are you going to have to be suspicious of your neighbor now? Clearly seeding the idea that you should be distrustful of everybody, so your attention is focused elsewhere. So he's and again, being involved with the police, you're thinking you're someone important. I was the last person to see them. You elevate yourself in importance and significance to this case. You start appearing on telly a lot. You get a huge boost from that because people are like, oh, it's the guy on telly. He's the one who's helping search for the girls. He's the one who's organizing community efforts. He was the last one to see them and all that. So you get like a huge boost of ego from that. So I think that it's very likely he is a narcissist. I don't know if he's a psychopath though. To me, he seems cold enough to be one, because he killed two little girls. That's like the personal part of me going, fuck everything else. All you need to know is he killed two girls. Yeah. Psychopath.
One of the things you said there about being the last person to see them raises your status in this milieu. It puts you at most risk of being caught, because it makes you into the prime suspect in a way, doesn't it? I mean, do you think he was...
It makes you the most valuable source of information rather than the prime suspect. It makes you the most valuable source of information to the police, because you're the one who can then divert them different ways. If you killed them and then you hid them in a park to the west, you can say to the police, I saw them walking off to the east, and send the police completely the wrong way. You have that huge element of power over the police then, and you become valuable to them because you're their most recent source. You're their most, you're the closest source to the approximate time of death or when they disappeared. So you're the one they want to focus a lot of attention on.